Hey everyone, we're going to make a clamshell stocking today. And I want to talk to you a little bit about my clamshell quilt as well, in case you're interested in making one of these. They're done differently, approached differently, but pretty much the same. So for the stocking, the first thing you want to do is cut a fat quarter of fabric. I've used a Kona here. You could use muslin, any kind of throwaway fabric. So a fat quarter, and then you want to draw a grid on it. For my stocking, I'm using about a 3.5 inch clamshell piece template, and this is on the blog. So my grid is going to be 3.5 inches square. So the height and the width of your clamshell is the same. And so my grid needs to be squares. So from top to bottom and from side to side, I have a 3.5 inch grid. And then I put a stocking outline on my grid just to give me an idea where I wanted to add clamshells, so that I didn't add clamshells to an area that I'm just going to cut off and it would be wasted. So before I did my stocking outline, I figured out where I wanted my clamshells to be placed and did my outline from that placement, that arrangement. So anytime you see something like here, you can see this is my stocking outline, and this is my grid line. So there's a little bit of the stocking here, so I need to have a clamshell covering this grid piece. This grid piece, no, because there's no stocking outline there. So once you start adding all your clamshells, you're not going to see this outline, but it'll be okay, because once you cut your stocking off, you know where you've centered it. You know where it's placed. And you certainly can tell if there's not a clamshell there. You probably shouldn't put your stocking template on top of that, because you'll have a blank space. So the first thing you want to do when you get your template made, and the template, I made mine out of cardboard. You can use quilter's template plastic or anything. It's got a little bit of, a little rigid, so that you're not frustrated with outlining it. So make your template. And this is, like I said, this is about a 3.5 inch, but you don't have to use 3.5 inch. You could use anything you want. You just make sure that your grid matches the height and width of your template. So you place your template on your fabric, right side of the fabric, because we have a stitch line. Place it so you can see it. So you place it on your fabric, and with a friction pen, we're going to trace it. All around, and then I'm going to cut leaving about 1/4 inch to turn under here. Really messy because I have this camera right in front of me and it's kind of awkward. And then the scooped out part, this is all going to be covered by the clamshell below it. So you just need to have a little bit of wiggle room there. So again, about 1/4 inch or so. And then on the tip of the clamshell, I always cut it straight on the line. And I use that to place my clamshell on the grid. And you'll see that. Okay, so let's imagine I'm gonna add this clamshell right here, which I'm not, because I would go, I go from right to left and add my clamshells. You know, if you feel better going the other way, that's fine. But you're gonna add them in line so that you can butt the curved sides up to each other. And you'll start from the top and work your way down each row. So the top row is going to be about even with the top of your fat quarter. And then when you get down to your second row is straddling the first row. When I started this top row, I started with the middle of a clamshell on a grid line, and then half of it, this half is the only part that's going to show, so it's the only part I stitched. So this part is stitched down, and then I added the next clamshell, and that is all stitched. And the reason I started it this way is because when we go to cut, when you add your stocking on, your stockings, you'll leave about 1/4 of an inch because that's your seam allowance. So about 1/4 of an inch above your clamshell is where you want to put your stocking. And then this is covered, so you don't have like white space from your, your foundation showing. Okay, so once you're ready to add a clamshell, you just use a little bit of either glue based it or a glue pen, and add some glue to it. And I do glue down that center line. And then you're going to place it so that the top of your curve, if you're going between the grid lines, the top of the curve is about at the top of the line. The sides are meeting the sides here, and then the bottom is hitting that line. So when I placed this one is between two above, and the center is on a grid line. So I made sure that the center was kind of centered on a grid line. And then this section, this curve on the right-hand side is lining up with what will be the bottom of this clamshell. And then this side, I can tell, is lined up with this clamshell. And then we're going to stitch all the way around that curve. And that's the only part you have to stitch. So it goes pretty fast. So I have my needle and thread. And you're going to just turn under, I don't know, about an inch or so of your curved fabric. And if you go back into the foundation fabric, right underneath where you came up here, you should hide your stitch. I'm using dark so that you can see it. And then move forward around 1/4 of an inch. Make smaller stitches if you want. And then again, I'm going to go back down right underneath where I came up in that curve, and that will hide your stitch. Move forward. Come up at the edge. And just keep doing that. Turning under, holding it with your thumb, and go straight down under where you came up, forward about 1/4 of an inch to hide your stitch. Okay, so you just keep doing that. And again, you only have to add a clamshell to the parts where your stocking will be placed when you cut. So this is my stocking. I know I need a clamshell here. Actually, I need to add a clamshell there. So I'll have to do that.